Hi, you are right on time. My name is Gallian, and I aim to help you make your next watch purchase the right one for you. Today, we're going to be deep diving into the world of micro brands. So, what defines them, what doesn't, and why they matter to the industry, as well as why you might actually want to consider getting one as your next wrist companion in 2025. I'll also be busting a few myths, naming names rather politely, and showing you a few pieces from my personal collection to make these distinctions clearer than the anti-reflective coating on a well-made sapphire crystal. Now, before we dive in, a quick disclaimer. I'm not in any way affiliated with any of the brands mentioned, and my thoughts are going to be based primarily on personal experience, a lot of the research that I've done, and the countless hours I've spent with the enthusiast communities that I'm part of. So, forums, Facebook groups, subreddits, you name it. Now, with that all out of the way, let's crack on. So, what exactly is a microbrand? Marvin Menke, the founder of Hamel Watches and the owner of the League of Microbrand Watches Facebook group, which I'm a part of, offers a solid definition, which I definitely think is worth repeating and unpacking. So when I'm thinking about a microbrand, I'm typically thinking it's going to be probably a solopreneur with a small team. Maybe it's going to be its founder itself and a couple of people working on the side. Could be part-timers or freelancers or full-time staff. One that outsources most, if not all, of their manufacturing and assembly. A brand that releases just a handful of models a year, 2 or 3 maximum, and in pretty small quantities. So think 100 to up to 500 pieces, but certainly not in the tens of thousands. One that uses third-party movements, usually Miyotas, Seikos, or Swiss Salaton Etta calibers on the entry level. None of those in-house unicorns here, and those that sell almost exclusively online via their own sites or the occasional Kickstarter or watch show. Perhaps most charmingly, those brands that have a founder who might actually reply to your DMs or your messages on Instagram. Now, let's be quite clear. Being small or micro doesn't really form the only qualifier here. So big box brands like Seiko, Citizen, Hamilton, and the rest of the Swatch Group Grang, despite producing affordable pieces, are very clearly not microbrands. They are industrial titans. Now, if you've seen their factory floors, you'd think they were making a spacecraft, right? Not Seikos. And there are these murky kind of middle grounders, brands that look small but aren't really microbrands in spirit. So Steinhardt, for example, often pegged as a microbrand, but in reality, they've got a sprawling catalog, a global distribution network, and are more of a Rolex tribute brand rather than a solo acoustic artist. Or take Duxo, one of those fashion-forward clomage brands that cherry-pick iconic designs, say a bit of the Speedmaster, a bit of the Seamaster, maybe with the sprinkle of the Blackbay here and there. They make minor tweaks and pump them out at much lower prices. Now, there's nothing wrong with this model per se, and as a watch modder myself, I definitely get the appeal, but originality isn't their strong suit. They're basically just covering really great brands. And the last one I'll mention is Wise Watches, based in Thailand, often gets lumped in with microbrands too. But they've got a growing retail footprint, a pretty robust production setup in Bangkok, and have, from my perspective at least, clearly scaled past the microbrand territory. They're more like an indie label, with a recording contract, no longer playing in someone's basement. Now, let's then contrast this with microbrands, real microbrands in action, with 2 shining examples, Second Hour and Vario. Both run by husband and wife duos, both small yet mighty, and both doing some truly interesting work. So starting with Second Hour, which is based in Melbourne, Australia, is the creation of Peter and Akira Sargessen. Their watches, like the Mandala and the Ginclear, are produced in pretty low quantities, and they tend to iterate thoughtfully rather than flood the market with variants. They design pretty much everything in-house, outsource the parts and assembly, and use solid workhorse Miyotas from Citizen. Best of all, if you've got a question, you're probably going to get a response from Peter pretty quickly, either through Facebook, an email, or any of the community groups that he's part of. And then there is Vario from Singapore, founded by Ivan and Judy. So Ivan started off selling straps, but soon leveled up into actually making watches. And not just any watches, but beautifully executed, retro-infused pieces like the Empire and the Verso. They've stayed pretty true to the microbrand model, all designed down in-house, assembly outsourced, and distribution handled primarily through their website and a few enthusiast shows. What makes these microbrands stand out isn't just how small they are. I mean, that's a feature, but it's really about their philosophies towards design, and each of these designs are pretty distinctive and personal. They're also really full of character. They're not trying to be everything to everyone. They're trying to be something to someone, something more. And in doing so, they offer a compelling alternative to the mass market commodity. Now, there are definitely pros and cons, so let's start with the upsides of buying a microbrand. The main thing for you is originality. These watches aren't just punching out cookie-cutter designs. You'll often find unique case shapes, uncommon dial textures, playful color palettes, and experimental materials, things that the big brands wouldn't necessarily risk putting out into mass production. Second, you're getting strong value. Microbrands compete on spec sheets pretty hard as well. So, sapphire crystals, ceramic bezels, Swiss-regulated Japanese movements, bracelets with quick-release systems, and much more, packed into a sub $1,000 package. But, and is a big but, microbrands aren't without their risks. So QC issues can pop up, just like with the majors, but getting things fixed may be a little bit slower. After all, the same guy who designed your watch might also be the one running customer support, packing your parcel, and running the Instagram account. Not exactly a robust customer service department. Also, and perhaps more critically, not all microbrands survive. Crowd-funded projects sometimes don't get off the ground. Others might fold a year or two after launching, and even after they offer a 2-year warranty, there is really no guarantee that the brand will be able to support it or be around to actually honor that warranty. That's the trade-off of supporting the underdog. Now, that said, some microbrands certainly don't stay micro forever. And that's actually a really good thing. So take Baltic and Christopher Ward, for example. Both started off pretty small, with pretty humble origins and lean teams. But now, they've expanded production, built out assembly capability, and invested in movement development. Christopher Ward even offers their own in-house calibers mat. And then there's Formix, the Swiss brand that's been making waves with technical innovation like their case suspension system, COSC-rated movements, and impressively engineered bracelets. My S39, for example, with the Blue Gate dial, is a prime example of this. With impeccable brushing and polishing on the case, it's built like a tank, but wears a lot more like a dress watch, and is priced accordingly. These brands are no longer microbrands, they're independents, and we should definitely be evaluating them as such when we're making a buying decision. Now, let's also talk about the modders and custom builders. They're often lumped into the microbrand world, but that's not quite accurate either. Yes, they might source their parts, assemble in-house, and some might even regulate their movements. But originality is often absent. These are usually homage builds or outright clones with minimal tweaks here and there, and there is absolutely nothing inherently wrong with that. It's accessible, it's customizable, and I've dabbled with each of these myself. But let's not pretend that it's the same as building a unique design from the ground up. Throwing your name on a sterile dial doesn't make you a microbrand. It makes you a creative assembler, and that's cool, but different. Now, case in point, today's wrist companion is my lovingly crafted rusty sub, a cheeky little homage to the Tudor Black Bay Harrods edition, Fotina dial and all. Definitely built more for chores and not for compliments. So, why did I for this topic? Because I think microbrand inject innovation and risk-taking into an industry that often plays it pretty safe. They give you, the enthusiast and buyer, variety, personal stories, and genuinely interesting products. And when you support them, you're supporting artists and entrepreneurs, not faceless conglomerates. But labels also do matter. If we keep calling every smallish brand a microbrand, we really run the risk of diluting the term. So let's reserve that label for the passionate few who are still building something bold, something exciting up from the ground up. And when those brands grow up, celebrate them, cheer them on, become a fan of the brand, not just a micro. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into microbrand madness, leave a like down below and let me know in the comments. What's your favorite microbrand and why? Better yet, tell me about both your best and your worst experiences. We do love a little bit of drama here. If you're new to the channel as well, consider subscribing for more takes like this, as well as my mainstay, which is reviews, from everything from watch modding to affordable gems, to underrated classics, to more pricier models, and really everything in between. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep your watches wound so you're right on time. I'll see you in the next one.